Welcome to Connecting the Community podcast. I am your host, Marge Andre. I will be connecting you to people, organizations, and events that create community. I am creating this podcast in Richmond Hill, an eclectic and very culturally diverse community with lots of trees and streams and interesting people, just up the hill from Toronto. On this podcast, I will be talking with Sean Cisterna, an award-winning director and a Richmond Hiller. Welcome, Sean.
Thank you for having me, Marge. I'm very excited to be here.
Yeah, no, this is great, Sean. Sean, have you always lived in Richmond Hill? And what schools did you go to?
No, I moved here in 2007, I think. I directed my first film called it was called King of the Camp, and then I moved to Richmond Hill shortly thereafter as I started getting busier, and I needed kind of a good halfway point between the 404 and the 400 to get to all my different productions. So that Richmond Hill seemed like the ideal place to settle and raise a family.
Okay, very good. Okay. How did you get into filmmaking?
Oh my gosh, when I was I think 4 years old, I saw E.T. in the theater for the first time, and I remember crying at the end of it, and just knew then like the power of movies, and I was enthralled and did everything I could to study it, and eventually went into filmmaking at York University, and that's where I studied film and knew the potential of having a career in the industry. So, I took a look at all those credits scrolling by in movies, 300 names going by, and I figured I could at least be one of those people who contribute to the making of a film.
Okay, nice answer. I like that. Okay, so before we start talking about your newly released movie, you did some smaller stuff, including working with the then town of Richmond Hill. I think you even videotaped me at one time.
Yeah, I remember doing a series of capturing stories, I think the project was called. So yes. The cultural committee had me do a series of 5 different short videos about the history of Richmond Hill and the past, present, and future connections that the community shares. So it was a fun project, not only to learn more about the city that I kind of call my home now, but to hear about all the important history that had led to the incorporation of the village back in the 1800s and up to its present day. So it was fascinating learning about all that history as well.
Yeah, Richmond Hill does have an interesting history, but I don't think I made the cut in what you taped. So, but no grudge there. So all good. Okay. What other things did you do early on?
Oh, early on, I did a kids show for PBS called Ricky's Room. It was a story about a big blue rhinoceros, and I was the props person. That was my first job out of school. I directed a movie called Moon Point. That was kind of my first independent feature. Kind of did it on credit cards, and that was the film that kind of allowed me to get onto the international film festival circuit. And the film won a few awards and was able to sell it to televisions shortly thereafter. So I got to repay off my Visa and MasterCard, which was thankfully that led to the following films and working with Netflix, and so it was a good gamble to put in myself in those early days.
Okay, that's a good story. Okay, so if you Google you see 4 big movies that you've directed: 2015, Full Out; 2017, Kiss and Cry; 2019, The Vine; and just released, more or less, 2022, Long Ride. Do you have a favorite of those?
Oh my gosh, no! I love them all for different reasons. On Full Out, it was a movie I got to work with Jennifer Beals on from Flashdance, and Jennifer was not only and obviously an accomplished and award-winning actress, but a Hollywood icon. So to be able to work with her and to learn from her was a remarkable experience. And then Kiss and Cry was also a very special project that also was acquired by Netflix, and that's the story of Carly Allison, this up-and-coming figure skater and singer who gets this rare form of cancer as soon as she finds love for the first time. So it's a bit of a heartbreaking story, but it felt like the entire Toronto community kind of came together to help support us. Even the Toronto Maple Leafs helped us get into the ACC and film in front of 18,000 people. So that was an amazing experience. From the Vine, I love for a different reason. It was shot in Italy and in Toronto, so I got to do my first international co-production and worked with Emmy Award winner Joe Pantoliano. And our crew spent a month in Italy, basically, so in southern Italy. So it was a remarkable way to make a film that's on Amazon Prime right now. And then finally, The Long Rider is a film about Felipe Leite. It's a documentary about his story. It's a remarkable tale about this kid's quest to get back home to his family after he is essentially kicked out of our country. And he does so by riding a pair of horses from Canada to Brazil. So it's a monumental modern day epic quest for one person to get back home to his family after he's essentially kicked out of our country.
Yeah, that was I've watched the trailer and I was quite impressed with that. So, and all of these are available on Netflix or Prime. And so I really want to know, how is it that you work to get someone to pay for this? How does all the Netflix payment work and Amazon Prime?
Yeah, it's a complicated system, and it's always changing. So I feel like Netflix 5 years ago is not the Netflix it is today. I mean, they're far more kind of gatekeepery. They have sort of shunned the independent film community and are only making their own internal projects, which is kind of disappointing. But we're in a period of great change right now. Hollywood is coming out with new streaming systems, it seems, daily, and we're kind of in a survival of the fittest moment where all these platforms are being put up against each other to see who survives. So the industry is always, fueling itself on change, and we have to ride the wave to kind of keep up with it. But yeah, essentially, I go to different festivals and markets and then pitch the movies. Or if they win awards at different festivals, then it's more likely that a streamer might have the confidence to buy it for their platform. So that's the beauty about filmmaking, is it's exciting, and it's a gamble at the same time, and it's it could be at one point I hope to win the jackpot, but it hasn't happened yet.
Okay, but it's very good that they are so accessible that we can all watch and enjoy your films, and I'm happy for that. But you certainly have a following here in Richmond Hill, and there is a screening of The Long Ride at the Richmond Hill Center for Performing Arts, and you will be in attendance for a Q&A on March 27th. Tickets are $10, 12 at the door. The synopsis for this film, I'm going to just read it, is when Philippe Leite leaves his adopted home in Canada, the aspiring journalist sets out on an epic quest to ride from Calgary to his family's home in Brazil and later beyond, entirely on horseback. An 8-year odyssey of over 25,000 kilometers across 12 international borders. There's intense heat, droughts, speeding transport trucks, nature's wrath, and corrupt border guards on its history-making long ride home. I watched the trailer, and just that 2-minute clip, I'm shaking my head. I can't imagine how you made this movie, what it took to make it. Yeah, did you go to all 12 countries? And how did you find those bears? So can you tell us what was involved in making that movie?
Sure. So this story happened in 2012. So it's a documentary. And so I had been friends with the protagonist for the last 15 years or so. We went to high school together, or the same high school at least. And when he wrote his first book, I optioned it and turned it into a screenplay. And just as we were making plans to produce the film and wrote a beautiful script around it, the COVID pandemic happened, and we lost the opportunity to shoot the film because borders were closed, and I couldn't bring actors from Canada to Brazil and cross borders during a pandemic. So that's when Felipe said, I shot all this footage on my journey. Maybe we could do something with it first while we ride this thing out. And so all this documentary footage had been collected and just kind of sitting in a vault for the last 10 years or so. And it was a beautiful sort of pandemic project, a lockdown project, going through these 500 hours of footage and constructing a story around that. So we did interviewed Felipe, and then we sent a camera to Brazil and got some additional footage. But it was all, again, during the height of COVID, and we had to work remotely. So a lot of what you see is our archival material that I've spent the last year and a half kind of cutting together with my team and creating a film for you all to enjoy. And the thing is, with 500 hours of footage, I could have made multiple different films with that amount of content to sift through, but we felt like this was the 90 minutes that you end up seeing is the most compelling aspect of the story, because it gets you from point A to point B, and in the most exciting and the most exciting way possible.
Woo. Okay. So you did not do much traveling then?
Not for this project, because the footage already existed. I mean, Felipe lived every day here. It's kind of a solo shot film. He would ride ahead and set up the camera on a tripod, then ride back on the horses, then ride through the shot, go back and pick up the camera, and kind of cut and repeat that all the way from Canada to Brazil. It took him 2.5 years to get back home to his family after he was deported. But but we will be making plans to shoot the narrative version of this, so a bigger budgeted movie with actors and a true international co-production, and that's where we'll head to all these different countries and kind of recreate the story for a wider audience.
That sounds an exciting project. So yeah, I was going to ask you if you spoke Spanish at all. Does he speak, or is it Portuguese he speaks?
Felipe speaks both Spanish and Portuguese. I'm trying to learn some Portuguese, so when I get to Brazil, I'll be able to fit in a bit better. But yo hablo español muy bien. Yo estudio.
Yeah. Okay. Because I watched that and I was wondering, how did you find those bears? But the bears they were there. So, okay. That's what happened for that issue. Okay. Besides this screening on March 27th, what else are you up to these days?
Oh my gosh. I feel like despite living through a pandemic where I thought everything would kind of shut down, that's where it kind of really proved that people at home needed content and films to watch. So I probably haven't been busier in my career than these last couple of years. So what's exciting is that after I'm starting tomorrow, I'm doing a movie in Hamilton called Sincerely Christmas. It's our first Christmas movie, so that'll be out later towards the December 2023. And then I am heading to Havana, Cuba, to do a documentary on the Canadian women's baseball team as they train with the Havana baseball team in Cuba. And so it's a cross-cultural sort of documentary, a sports documentary, as we see which ladies make the cut for the Olympic team. So I've had a fun start to 2023, and I think it's going to be even greater as the months go on. But yeah, I have a lot of projects on the go right now.
Definitely. Okay, I'm going to have to check back in with you in a year's time to see how things have gone. But both those projects sound great. I love Christmas movies, so looking forward to that. I could ask you a lot of questions about this new movie coming up. But I'll wait till the actual screening to do that. So I have a feeling there's a will be a great audience. You have quite a following here in Richmond Hill. I'm going to put into the podcast notes the trailer and more information about what you're doing and how to follow you on social media. So we need to keep in touch with you. Is there anything else that you'd like to add?
I just started another project with the city of Richmond Hill. It's the story of our 150th year. So throughout the year, I'll be documenting certain events throughout the year in celebration of Richmond Hill's 150th anniversary. So I already met with the mayor and witnessed the flag raising ceremony, and we'll start to interview different notable figures from the Richmond Hill community as they tell their story, and mixed in with comments from just a vox populi from the greater city itself. So whoever wants to kind of contribute to this video, you'll catch me around different events throughout the year as we kind of celebrate our 150th year together.
Very nice. Okay, I have some people I might suggest that I'd like to see in that documentation of our sesquicentennial. So that's very good. I'm glad to hear that. I do end our podcast with the guest response to this one question. Name one thing you really like about this community.
One thing I like about this community, honestly, every time I bring up production here, or I'm lucky enough to film locally, the big difference between a city like Toronto and a city like Richmond Hill is that local people from Richmond Hill are always apt to open their doors for production. So it hasn't become like such a money-making venture like it is in bigger cities, but you really get the sense of the community feeling that people want to help support a film and have their locations featured, or help cater a production at a reasonable level. I think in the city, where when people hear that there's a film being made, they jack up prices, and it just kind of frustrates everybody. But in a smaller community, it's wonderful to have so many people open their doors and kind of just willing to help production out, to see their location being utilized in a film, or their services, or a local actor being incorporated. It's really nice to bring a production here and feel the community kind of rally around to make the project happen. It's a beautiful thing.
Well, I like to hear that. Okay. So again, thank you. I hope we see you around town. And thank you for taking the time to do this podcast.
Thank you very much, Marge. I had a great time. You're a great interviewer. Thank you.
Thank you for listening. I would very much appreciate you sharing this podcast. Please tune in next week as we continue to explore the community. Consider emailing me at Marge, M-A-R-J, at margeandre.com. I welcome suggestions for podcast guests. Stay well, stay connected.